Tonight, our special transmission as global activists launch the campaign #RiseForRafah. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Zahra Sayed. Today is the 217th day since Israel started targeting Palestinians indiscriminately. Several civilians have been killed and injured in Israeli airstrikes early this morning. A family home in Abasan al-Kabira in Khan Yunis has been targeted. The attack has killed 8 civilians and injured several others. Palestinians fleeing Rafah are headed to Khan Yunis. Israel's military says it is intensifying its operations in eastern Rafah. Patients and staff are being forced out of hospitals across Rafah. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel is ready to fight with fingernails. His remarks come after a warning from the U.S. President Joe Biden that arms supplies could be withheld. A United Nations agency reports 110,000 Palestinians have fled Rafah. The Al-Qassam Brigades, the armed wing of Hamas, says it has ambushed Israeli forces in eastern Rafah. The wing says it has targeted an Israeli Merkava tank with a Yasin 105 shell. On the other hand, the Israeli military says it has intercepted 2 missiles fired from the southern Gaza Strip. The death toll from Israel's war continues to mount. At the time of writing, at least 34,904 Palestinians have been killed. A report by the United Nations estimates another 8,000 have been buried in the rubble. 78,514 have been wounded. Israel's revised death toll from Hamas's attacks stands at 1,139. Israeli authorities have demolished nearly 50 Bedouin homes in Wadi al-Khalil, Negev desert. The move has displaced 500 Palestinian civilians. Bulldozers razed the homes, leaving scores of families homeless. Israeli police oversaw the demolitions. Residents have expressed their despair. They say they have been seeking a fair solution for years, only to face Israeli blockades. The Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, defends the action. He says the homes are illegal structures and that the government has the authority to demolish them. Ben-Gvir has warned against challenging the move. The Hamas delegation has departed to Qatar from Egypt. The news comes after media reports suggest Hamas has rejected alterations to the ceasefire deal made by Israel. Earlier this week, Hamas said it accepted a proposal put forward by Qatar and Egypt. It consisted of 3 6-week stages that would lead to a permanent ceasefire. It also included the full withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Gaza Strip and an end to the siege, along with the release of all Israeli captives held in Gaza in exchange for a number of Palestinian prisoners. Qatar, Egypt, and the US and the United Nations were all listed as guarantors of the agreement. CIA Director Bill Burns facilitated discussions. However, Israel has rejected the proposal. Israel continues military actions in Rafah, defying the warnings from the United States and the United Nations. Israeli media reports senior Hamas officials say the group is still open to terms of the original proposal. The UK is proceeding on with arms sales to Israel. The news comes as the United States has threatened to halt arms supplies in response to Israel's potential aggression in Rafah. British Foreign Secretary David Cameron says the UK practices are different from that of the United States. He says the UK government licenses arms sales rather than directly supplying them. There is pressure from the MPs to follow the US's lead in pausing arms shipments. However, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is defending this decision. Reports reveal UK-made components make a significant contribution to Israeli weaponry. The decision has sparked debate over ethical responsibility and international law compliance. Groups like Campaign Against the Arms Trade are criticizing the decision. The group says British companies provide around 15% of the components of the F-35 stealth combat aircraft. Israel has been using the aircraft to bomb Gaza. The group also says the real value of arms exports to Israel is twice as high as the government claims. It says exports value at least $1.3 billion since 2015. Student protests at various universities across the United States have led to diverse outcomes. While some institutions have chosen dialogue and negotiation, others have resorted to forceful measures. At least 7 universities have agreed to address student demands regarding investment transparency and divestment from Israel. Sacramento State in California has announced plans to divest from corporations profiting from human rights violations. The decision follows 9 days of student protests. Columbia University, University of California, Riverside, and Evergreen State College in Washington have also agreed to the students' demands. However, some schools like Northwestern University and University of Minnesota initially employed police force before eventually agreeing to the dialogue. The movement reflects a growing call for university divestment from companies involved in human rights abuses, particularly concerning Israel. Despite challenges, student organizers remain determined to push for concrete divestment actions. And in related news, the UK government has pledged £500,000 to the University Jewish Chaplaincy. The University Jewish Chaplaincy is a registered charity that operates in dozens of universities across the UK. The funds will be used by chaplains to advocate for Israel in these universities and will provide students suggestions on tackling anti-Semitism. It is also advising ministers on new guidelines for combating anti-Semitism in higher education. However, the charity has been in the center of controversy. London-based digital outlet The Middle East Eye reports the chaplaincy listed a requirement proactive Israel advocate for candidates in job descriptions. The advertisement was for vacant chaplaincy posts in Brighton, Bristol, and Glasgow. The charity has not responded to Middle East Eye's request for comments. However, the job opportunities page from the website has been removed since then. In a separate event, a chaplain who works with the University of Leeds took a leave last year to join the Israeli reservist army after Hamas's attack. This led to protests and calls for his resignation. The chaplain has been back to the university since last month. Following his return, protests have escalated. The University of Leeds condemns these protests as anti-Semitic attacks. It says it is working with the police to ensure that the chaplain continues supporting Jewish students at Leeds and other universities he serves in. A coalition of prominent rights activists has initiated a global boycott campaign in solidarity with Palestine. The boycott is endorsed by figures like former British lawmaker Keith Vaz and Burmese activist Maung Zarni. The campaign urges support for Palestinians in Gaza under the slogan #RiseForRafah. The campaign seeks to mobilize global support for Palestinian rights. It aims to pressure political leaders to fulfill moral and legal obligations to prevent genocide. Israel has been bombing Gaza for the past 9 months. The region suffers extensive damage. 85% of the civilian population is displaced. There are severe food and medical shortages due to an ongoing blockade. Israel faces genocide accusations at the International Court of Justice. Thank you for watching. Our news is produced by Muslim Network TV, which is a not-for-profit organization. We need your support for donations. Please scan the QR code on our broadcast or visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now so we can continue to amplify the voices of Muslims in Canada and abroad. Assalamu alaikum.